So hello and welcome to today's Beta Buddy video. Today's video is going to be all about Gary Smith, ranging from his evolution from his earliest concepts to of course cut content from the final game. So let's jump straight in and begin. So we have quite a bit of concept art to go off with Gary, going as far back as late 2002 when Buddy first entered development, where we do have some colourless art. Now keep in mind at this point Buddy was in its very early stages, so Gary didn't have a name, and he's only referred to as main character GR10. Now I doubt GR stands for Gary, you know, GR, yeah, anyway, because the reason I say this is because quite a few characters had names and quite a lot of other characters didn't actually have names but did have descriptions, if that makes sense. We have other beta characters like Chuck and Cassie who have names, but then we have other characters who were just referred to as, you know, Punk or Teacher, that kind of thing. Anyway, despite this being an early version of Gary, we can see quite a few differences in him here. First of all, he looks a bit more friendlier, and instead of looking somewhat miserable, he looks a little bit happier. I guess you can say he looks a bit more normal. He still keeps a bit of a shorter kind of haircut, but it is slightly different. And he's also carrying a messenger bag. Now given it's a concept, I won't look too much into the messenger bag, but it's worth noting at least because, well, one of the early models for Ernest Jones shows him with a messenger bag on his model, so even though this is one of the earliest concepts of Gary, he still keeps his sleeves rolled up, which is a part of his final design, which pretty much tells you that this is definitely Gary. Now of course, with this being a monochrome bit of art, it's impossible to tell what colours they were planning for initially, but going off his trousers being white, it's likely that Gary's black trousers were going to be beige like Jimmy and Pete's were. Now if you take a look at the top, it actually says version 1, so that tells us more concepts of Gary were made, but unfortunately we do not have them. It is very clear that they went with this one, but I do wish we had the second or third concepts to look at as well. Now speaking of more concept artwork, we do have another bit, but this is sort of a later version of the one we just looked at. His second art still retains a very similar look to his earliest concept, but this is just a bust of him at this point, it's not like a full body kind of drawing. And this time we can see he takes on a more scowling, unfriendly like appearance. Aside from that, not much else has really changed here. He still looks near enough exactly the same. Except this time we can see that his vest is burgundy, which actually fits in line well with other characters from the Tyler Wilson portfolios. But yeah, this part was clearly done when they were designing Gary to be a bit more psychotic and maybe the original villain. There is also one bit of artwork that can only be seen on the Scholarship Edition versions of the game, well, Xbox 360 and Wii at least. If you go to the main menu and go to multiplayer, you may notice that Gary is wearing a sweater instead of a vest, which I believe is the only bit of artwork that shows him like this, possibly implying that he may not have wore a vest initially. The reason I say that is because there is artwork of other characters which do show them sporting different appearances, such as Russell giving Bucky a wedgie when he's wearing a blue vest, which he doesn't in the final game, but we know the Buddies did initially, and Pinky's Aquaberry outfit not being patterned nor the same shade of blue as it is in the final game. And that's about it for the early concepts of Gary Smith. There aren't that many other changes with him, excluding a rumour that used to make the rounds about Gary's SS officer costume that he wears on Halloween was supposed to have a swastika on his arm, and the only bit of evidence that shows he did have that is a low quality screenshot from the Brady Games guide, where you can see a red armband on Gary's arm, which is something that SS officers do have anyway. It was likely removed because Rockstar were already in hot water with Buddy anyway, and having the main character hanging out with a kid wearing an SS officer costume complete with swastika wouldn't be a good look, and also would get it banned in Germany. Now from my knowledge, Gary doesn't really have any other changes with most of his other appearances, but going off unconfirmed rumours, we're going to talk a bit about Gary's original role in the story, and that is that if rumours are correct, Gary Smith wasn't supposed to be the antagonist still, but instead Dr. Kravelsnitch was, which if it's true, means that Gary might have been relegated to a more small antagonistic role, or might have stayed as an ally. I don't think there's been any evidence to sort of actually prove that Kravelsnitch was supposed to be the main antagonist, but something to keep in mind anyway. And finally, the one we're all familiar with is the infamous Spank Me cutscene from the Buddy Christmas trailer, which of course belongs to the deleted mission The Paddle from Chapter 4, so Gary was going to have another on-screen appearance at some point. Now what's unusual about this is the leftover files say the Paddle was a side mission, so not only would it mark one of the only side missions where a main character appears in it, the other being Smash It Up with Zoe, but it wouldn't make much sense if the mission was done after Gary gets expelled. So that is most of the evolution and cut content surrounding Gary Smith. I hope you enjoyed this video and be sure to stick around for more Buddy content. So thank you for watching and have a great day.